Hello everyone. In this tutorial I'd like to show you adekoCAM's palette packing capability and the new 6th column for that matter. Once a project is complete and all its modules are produced or all its parts are manufactured, depending on the way we deliver what we produce, we can archive a project completion report, print labels for modules and pallets to be loaded as well as for loaded pallets for delivery. We can both use the adekoCAM's user interface for that matter, or if we have a barcode or QR code reader input device, we can use that for loading and unloading pallets. The 6th column at the end comes after the column which has the completed projects, as you might already know, and holds the pallets to be loaded. Here I already have a few completed projects. When a project is complete, first of all this green arrow appears, meaning that we can load pallets. We can then generate project completion report by right-clicking on the project card header and selecting completion report item. This automatically generates a project completion report in PDF format and saves it in user archive directory. The user directory is by default in documents folder, but it can be changed during adekoCAM installation. The report format can also be tailored based on customer needs. Let me create an empty pallet and load it with modules from one of my completed projects. A pallet can only be loaded from a single project, but a project can load more than one pallet. Let me create a second pallet and load some other modules to this new pallet. In order to get the rest of the modules automatically, I can right-click on the pallet and select Pull All Modules, or if I would like to empty it, I can select Empty Pallet. Once the pallet is full, as I loaded as many modules as required, now I can generate pallet label to be placed on the pallet itself, listing loaded modules, as well as many other details related to the project and delivery. This was pallet loading with the user interface. In addition to the user interface, I could also use a barcode or QR code reader as my input device and load as well as unload the pallets using it. This option is probably the preferred one in a production setting for many manufacturers. I hit the escape key to activate the code reader mode and see that this small windowlet opens, waiting for input. It goes green when it listens and loses color when the focus is somewhere else. Make sure it's green and just scan the label of a pallet to set that pallet as the one to be loaded and continue with scanning module labels as they arrive. It gives text and graphical feedback on the operation below. As the module labels are scanned, the modules are added to the content of the pallet which was scanned at the beginning. To change the pallet to be loaded, just scan the label of that pallet and continue with scanning module barcodes or QR codes. To unload a module from its pallet, just scan the module label. The modules will automatically be removed from the pallet. In this tutorial, we saw how to generate project completion report and package modules onto pallets for delivery. We did this loading and unloading pallets both via manual labor and via QR code reader. Thanks for your attention.